Hey there, Dr. Mike here. Today I want to talk a little bit about some of my favorite books. I think usually I'm on this platform giving advice, and I think it's time to just switch it up a little bit and talk about some of the books that I enjoy. First of all, I'm not a big fiction reader, never been a big fiction guy. I like to go to movies for my fiction, but as far as books go, I like to read books that have some truth to them. And so I just wanted to share with you guys maybe 3 or 4 of my favorite books. So first is a book by Nathaniel Philbrick called In the Heart of the Sea. Basically, it's a book about a true story about the whale ship known as the Essex that sails out of Nantucket. And in the days of whaling, they used to sail all the way around South America through the Cape Horn dangerous area and out into the Pacific Ocean to hunt sperm whales, and they would use the whale oil as their fuel back home. And these guys would spend 12 months to 18 months out at sea until they filled up the boat with oil, and then they came back home. Now on this trip, they went out and the whale ship actually was sunk by a giant whale. The whale actually attacked the boat, sank it. A bunch of them got on a couple of life rafts, made a 3,000 mile journey, and only like 4 or 5 of them survived. It's a crazy story. And as a matter of fact, it's what Herman Melville wrote the book Moby Dick after this true story. He actually came to Nantucket to interview the survivors and basically wrote the book Moby Dick after this story. So it's called In the Heart of the Sea, Nathaniel Philbrick. Another book, one of my favorites, is Into Thin Air, John Krakauer. John writes a book about the Everest, that season when like 20-something people died on Mount Everest. And it's a really harrowing story about people who got stuck up there in sub-zero temperatures and with storms coming in, and it was really, really hard on a lot of people. And so again, it's a true story based on a true story of the survivors of the Mount Everest year when things were really, really critical up there. It's called Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. Another one of my favorites based on the story of Kit Carson, who was a U.S. Army guide back in the day, Blood and Thunder. It's called Blood and Thunder by Hampton Sides. And Blood and Thunder is a great story about the Wild Wild West and how as people went out west and had run-ins with Indians and all the craziness that happened back then in their attempt to find their fortune and get their land out west. A lot of conflict between the American Indians and the settlers and the people who were moving out there. And Kit Carson's a fantastic story about his journey and his life through those times. And then, I like self-help books. I like a lot of the self-help books that are out, the old ones and the newer ones, and then the Bible. I love to read the Bible, love to read Proverbs, love to read it to my kids. And that's it. So there you go. Some of my favorite books. Now that we have some time to do some reading and a lot of us are home, working from home and doing those things, I hope that you guys are spending your time wisely and staying healthy. So there you go. A couple of my favorite books.